Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with the update for my palettes on the shopping block. I did a video a couple months ago talking about some palettes that I had on the shopping block that I might declutter or that I just wanted to use more in general in order to make a decision by the end of the year. So this is the update video. I'm going to talk through the 10 palettes that I had on the shopping block and let you know if I'm going to keep them or if I'm going to declutter them. So before I jump into the palettes, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. But let's jump into the video. So the first palette I'm going to breeze over because it is my Pana palette at the moment. That is the Modern Renaissance palette from Anastasia. I'm not going to show you the inside because I don't want to spoil anything, but it also doesn't really look like the original one anymore because I've used so much of it up. This is the palette that is going to be removed from my collection as soon as I finish it, so I don't think I'm going to finish it fully before the end of the year. I definitely won't, but I'm hoping to finish this maybe in the first quarter of next year, and once it's done it's obviously gone from my collection, so this is going to be one that is leaving my collection relatively soon. The second palette that I have is another Anastasia palette. I actually have 3 Anastasia palettes on this list, and this one is the Prism palette, and this is a palette that I went back and forth with a lot, whether I wanted to keep it, declutter it, if I wanted to pan it, what I wanted to do with it. And ultimately I have decided that I want to declutter this palette. Originally, like I said, I thought that I wanted to pan the shades in here that draw me into the palette, like especially like these 4 right here. This yellow shade here is also very interesting to me, as well as Lure. Those are shades that I feel like I could have panned, and also like maybe this bronze and a couple more shades. But I also feel like I have those shades over and over in my collection, and I don't feel the need to pan this because I'm gonna pan other palettes. I have a different palette that I want to pan next year, and I was gonna have this as a companion, but I just think it's gonna be a lot, so I have decided to declutter this one. However, I do think I want to the pot sphere. I'm gonna check if I have a dupe for this in my singles collection. If I don't, I'm gonna depot this. Maybe possibly the same with Eden, because I feel like that's such a beautiful tone that I might want that in my singles collection, but I think that might be it. The rest of them I do think I have duplicates of in my collection, so the rest of this will go, but that is my plan for this palette. So this is another one that will be leaving my collection, so another one decluttered from this list. The third palette is one that was one of the last palettes that I put on this list because I didn't really feel like I wanted to declutter this. I just wanted to get the more use out of it, and that's why I put it on this list, and that is the Amrisi palette from Anastasia. This palette looks like this on the inside, and I'm happy to say that I did reach for this palette quite a bit more. I've reached for every single shade in the top row. I'm actually wearing Gemini, which is this kind of glitter right here on my lower lash line today. I'm not sure how well you can pick it up on camera, but I'm wearing that one today. I also reached for this one and this one on the bottom row. The remaining shades on the bottom row though I have not yet used, but I think that's because a lot of them are similar to my Panda palette, which is again the Modern Renaissance palette. Samsa is obviously a bit different, and Reese is a shimmer pink, so you know it's not the same, but I feel like it's something that I can't reach for very easily. So I'm gonna try to reach for the rest of these shades before the end of the year, but I'm happy that I got some more use out of it, and I'm definitely gonna keep this one because I do love this palette, so this one is staying. The next brand we're gonna move into is Colourpop, and the first palette that I have to talk about is my Mar palette. You might know that this palette does not look like the original Mar palette because I combined this with a couple other palettes. And I had this as my project level up, I think was it level 1 palette? Level 2. Maybe I think level 2. So I wanted to take 2 pans in here, and I did that. I reached for every single shade twice. So obviously I got quite a lot of use out of this palette, and I did actually really enjoy it. This is the palette I'm going to hold on to for now. Since it's not like an original palette, like it's more of a customized palette, I might eventually move this into a singles and kind of start moving them around and using this as like a house for my BYOPs. But for now I'm really happy with the color story that's in here, and I think this gives something to my collection because I don't have these super bright kind of orangey red tones in other palettes. I have more kind of warm tones palettes, but this is like a different undertone than those. So I do feel like this is something that gives something extra to my collection, so it's another one that I'm going to hold on to. The next Colourpop palette though is the Flutterbye palette by Colourpop. This one I got from my friend Martina, and I'm really grateful that I received this from her. She was actually decluttering it from her collection, and she wanted to check if I wanted it. I got this one and the At First Sight palette at the same time, and the At First Sight palette I love and I do want to keep 100%. This one though, I have decided that I do want to declutter At the time of receiving this from her, I did not have any really mauve tone palettes like this in my collection, but I have since gotten quite a few more. I picked up the Elva palette from Odensai. I think I got those two around the same time though, but that one is slightly more warm tone than this one. But I also got the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette, and more recently I also picked up the Divine Rose 1 palette from Pat McGrath. And I think all of those are formulas that I prefer, and I feel like that kind of covers my usage, or like what kind of usage I would need for mauve tone palettes like this. And because of that, I am going to declutter this one. Surprisingly, one of the shades that I love the most in here is the shade Overpacked, which is the pressed glitter. And I know people are very split opinion on pressed glitters. I do like them for certain looks, but I do have Overpacked in a single as well, so I'm not too sad about losing that one. There are also some other stunning shades like Sunflower is really beautiful. Some of these mattes like Wild Wing is really nice as well, but again, I think I have those shades in my collection already, so I'm gonna let go of this one. A palette that has been very difficult to me to come to terms with, that I want to get rid of, but I have decided ultimately that I do want to get rid of, is the Magic Mini palette by Juvia's Place. This is a very well loved palette, as you can see in my collection. I have loved this palette, I've raved about it, I thought it was really good. However, either the quality of this has declined with age, or I've also just found better things like in these shimmers and stuff that I love way more. And since this palette is more shimmer heavy, I would rather reach for those shimmers than the ones in here. And it's not really a palette that I would reach for as like a kind of singular look. I mean, I would, but not for like an everyday look. If I specifically thought like, okay, I want to reach for the Magic Mini palette, I could reach for this and make like a look out of this palette. But it's not the one that I would reach for on my own, if that makes sense. So I have decided to declutter this one, and I feel happy about the amount of use that I got out of this palette and all of the pans that are in here. And I did have a kind of an unofficial goal of hitting pan in every single shade in here, and the only two that I haven't are these two here called Sakia and Kogi. But I'm still fine with that, because those two are kind of very warm toned oranges, like an orange and a red, and this kind of is like a pink tone red. And you know, they're beautiful shades, but I have them so many times over in my collection, and I'm kind of fed up with those type of tones, so I'm happy with not having pan on those. There is possibly a couple shades in here that I want to compare to my singles and see if I want to keep, specifically Faso, Suba and Nubia. Possibly even Yara, because I feel like that's a beautiful shade, quite a unique shade as well. So if I don't have those, I might depot those into my singles, but otherwise I will be letting go of this palette. The next palette is another one that I put on this list mainly just to get more use out of, and it was one that I felt like maybe was a bit redundant in my collection, but I ultimately knew that I wasn't going to get rid of that, and that is the Huda Beauty Gold Obsessions palette. This one looks like this on the inside. It's stunning. I love this palette. It's very compact as well, and the formula in here is really nice. Some of the shimmers aren't the best, but overall I do like the quality of this palette. Yeah, I am going to keep this one. I didn't get as much use out of it as I wanted over the past couple of months, but I'm going to continue reaching for this one. Maybe I can do a couple holiday looks with the golds in here. But yeah, I do really still like this palette, and it's one, again, I'm going to hold on to. The next palette that I have to talk about is my Beauty Bay Naked Tutorials palette. This one is a big boy. This one looks like this, and I think you all seen it before. And if you haven't seen my planning to pan video, you might not know, but I am gonna pick this as my panda palette for 2023. So I will be getting some good use out of this one next year. And you know, with that I'm gonna pan this, and hopefully by the end of next year I am going to get rid of this one. I don't think I'm going to finish the whole palette in a year, but I'm going to get as much use out of it as I can and finish my favorite shades. And once I'm done that, I'm pretty sure that I will be happy to let this one go. With the Panda palette that I have this year, which is the Modern Renaissance, I do want to finish the whole palette, even though it takes me more than a year. But I do suspect that when next year comes to an end, even if I haven't finished the whole palette, I will be letting go of the remaining shades in here. So this one is one that is going to be gone from my collection in a year's time. The next one is another one I'm going to hold on to, and that is my BH Cosmetic Blueberry Muffin palette. Again, this was my Project Level Up palette for level 1, so the one before Mar palette. So my Level Up project has definitely helped me with this project because I got used out of 2 of the palettes. I did get to play around with this palette in that project, and I do really like this palette. Again, it's just It's just one that I won't reach for every single day. However, it is still unique enough and it's still coherent enough that I can create looks with it, and it's more easy for me to reach for if I want like a cool tone look. You don't always have to include the blues, but if you do, you can get a blue look. You can also get like a more neutral look, either grey leaning or like more kind of warm tone leaning if you want to. So there are a lot of options in here, and it is a stunning palette. So I'm happy that I got more use out of it, which was again one of the goals with rolling into this shopping block. But yeah, I will hold on to this one for now. Then the last palette on my list was my Sweet Indulgence palette from Sydney Grace. This one I wanted to reach for more, and I did not reach for this one at all, apart from today. I reached for one eyeshadow today, which is the shade Gumdrop, which I reached for because it was in a different project. But apart from that, I haven't reached for this palette at all, which is a shame. I'm not drawn to this palette, and I have come to the conclusion that I am bored of decluttering this one. And again, I will depot some of the shades. I will compare them to the rest of my singles collection. And if there is something in here, like if there is shades that are unique, I will depot them into my singles because I love the formula of Sydney Grace shades. But if they are redundant, I will let them go. But this one is mostly going to be going to singles. However, I know for a fact I'm going to declutter at least, like, you know, 2 of the shades. I think Sherbet is definitely going to be one of them. Some of the other shades might go as well, but yeah, this one is going to be really moved out of my palette collection and moved into my singles. So those were the 10 palettes on the shopping block for me. So as of now, I'm actually getting rid of 5 out of the 10 palettes. I'm getting rid of, obviously, Anastasia Renaissance palette is gonna, I'm not getting rid of it right now, but it's gonna go soon. The Prison palette from Anastasia as well, the Decluttering Flutterbye palette, the Juvia's Place Magic palette, and the Sydney Grace Sweet Indulgence palette. So those are the 5 that I'm letting go of, so that's half, which I'm really happy with. I did not expect that many palettes to go when I first introduced them into this project, but that is basically where I am with my shopping block. I might do another one of these next year, just to continue reviewing palettes and seeing what I can cycle out of my collection. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye guys.